Hey, Steve Biondi here with another muscle car crawl. I'm here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with this 1970 Charger 500. This is an unrestored 24,900 mile car. Now, the only thing done to this car has been an external repaint. It's a Rhode Island car, but for all of its life, it was stored indoors, purchased new by a gal in school, and really well cared for. The floors, the trunk, interior, engine, all of it is totally original, with the exception, again, of the paint, which was faded and scratched by 1985, 86 or so, and so it was resprayed. Now, the wheels are also a little bigger than stock. This would have had 14 by 5.5-inch rallies, but again, otherwise, a largely unrestored car. One thing we're going to look for in this car is something called the build sheet. This is a treasure hunt. This is the first of 3 videos where we explore this car and hopefully find a build sheet. Now, you might wonder, what is a build sheet? Well, this is an example of one here. This is from a 1971 Plymouth Roadrunner, and the build sheet basically is the item that was installed in the car during assembly, which helped the assembly line workers install the correct parts, the right wheels, tires, interior, engine components. And believe it or not, as these things went down the assembly line, there were sometimes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of these things tucked into the car at various points. They're also known as track sheets. But on these things, when you find a build sheet, this is the DNA for your car. It can increase the value of a car by 10, 15% if you're talking about a Hemi car, because it erases all doubt, all question as to what the car was originally built as. Speaking of build sheets, on an earlier episode of the Steve Maggs Muscle Car Crawl, I bought a 1962 Dodge Dart police car. I referenced and I showed how this is the remains of the build sheet. I was in a rush. The car was so dirty and filthy and full of mud and muck from Texas, I was using a shop vac, and underneath the driver's bench seat, I heard paper shuffling as I was vacuuming. I sucked up half the build sheet. This is the other half, which I framed so it's forever enshrined and protected. But yes, don't be in a rush if you're looking for your build sheet. And speaking of that sort of thing, when it comes down to build sheets, every car has something interesting to look at. This is the build sheet from a 1979 AMC Concorde, 4-door, boring car. Who cares, right? Well, at the bottom here, National Car Rental, right there. This car was built for fleet use. It was sold to National Car Rental. So in many cases, the memo written at the bottom of the build sheet can totally explode the interest in the car, and in some cases, the value. I was involved in a 1968 Hemi Roadrunner 4-speed back in the mid-80s, and on the bottom of the build sheet was a grease pencil marking that said 1 headrest. And if you looked inside the car, it had a bench up front with 1 headrest on the driver's side. Yes, you could buy a Roadrunner with 1 headrest if you wanted it back in '68, and it was marked on the build sheet. Now, before we go further with this car, let's describe it a little bit more. This is a Charger 500. We know, of course, that the Charger 500 debuted in '69 as the NASCAR Aero Special, 1-year only deal, 392 built. Well, in 1970, Charger 500 became a trim group, a luxury trim group, kind of like the Coronet 500. So Charger 500s could be had with a slant 6, a 318, 383 2-barrel, or a 383 4-barrel. No 440s, no 6-packs, no Hemis. For that, you went into the Charger RT line. But in this case, let's see which engine we have. Yeah, there it is right there. Now, this is the 383 2-barrel. This cost an additional $69.75 over the 318. You might notice this is a 1970 Dodge Charger. That engine's in blue. Well, if this was a 383 4-barrel, it would be an orange engine, and it would have a Carter 4-barrel carburetor. But this, again, is the basic 290 horsepower 383 2-barrel. So yes, it's blue, not orange. It's a little bit of a detail. And this also has the log-style exhaust manifolds. Had it been a Magnum, it would have the high upswept, streamlined exhaust manifolds. But again, this is a very original car. The paint under the hood here is totally original. If we look on the firewall back here, we'll see those vaunted factory runs. Right here, you can see where the paint was applied so heavily that it ran and got thick. That's the stuff right there that Hemi and 6-pack restorers study so they can get it right. Factory imperfections like that. Now, getting back to the build sheet on this car, there's several places to look for a build sheet on a Mopar. Let's take a look in the back here. You might start with, believe it or not, under the trunk mat. Now, This is an original trunk car, original trunk mat, and even has the original F7014 Goodyear spare tire. Look at that, the teats are still there. The identification marking is on the tread, so when it rolled down the tire line into the chute toward the trunk of the car, was bounced into the back of the car by an assembly worker. They actually bounce these like basketballs into the back of the car, but there it is, that's the original spare. But anyway, the build sheet can sometimes be found underneath the trunk mat. Now the reality of that is, more often than not, that's a damp environment. The paper of the build sheet will quite often turn into dust and be long gone by the time you're looking for it 20, 30, 40, 50 years later. So for the most part, we go inside these cars to search for the build sheet. And in that mode, you can find build sheets under the carpet in some cases, or sometimes inside the seats, or even atop the glove compartment. There's a cardboard glove compartment in these things, and I've seen build sheets tucked on top of those, a little piece of tape, and then even sometimes inside the headliner, up above the headliner, right up in this area here. Now, we're not going to cut this car apart looking for those things, but those are classic places to look. But beyond that, the big place is the back seat. Chargers have bench seats in the back, as do most every Mopar. And on this car, we're going to dig around in the seats to see if we can find the build sheet. So stick around for the very next video in the series where we go searching for treasure in this gold Dodge Charger. And if you like this video, by all means stick around. And again, part 2, we're going to keep our search going for the build sheet in this Charger. And if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Maggs YouTube channel.